Hello, my name is Crazy Owl, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a tutorial on how to build gardens in Minecraft, because gardens are a really cool way to make the outside of your builds look really cool, and if you know how to do them right, it can look really, really cool. So let's get right into that. So on this side is the product that we're looking for, and there's a custom tree, a lot of bushes, and then some flowers and a lot of bone mealed grass, which is kind of what I'm going to show you how to do, and then a path as well. So if we come over here, I have just an empty bunch of these stone walls, and these is just a bunch of sort of randomized stone bricks and cobblestone and mossy stone bricks and mossy cobblestone, and that's just kind of to create a worn looking garden wall. And I think this wall turned out pretty good. But the first thing I want to do is sort of make a path that goes through here, and I'm going to start by outlining it and making the shape I want out of just path blocks. And then I'm going to take some of this and make it coarse dirt, because it'll look a little bit more worn and a little bit more real and a little bit less flat. And to be honest, I actually really like the fact that path blocks are 1 pixel down from the rest of the blocks, because it gives just a tad bit of depth. And then the next thing I'd like to do is to make a custom tree. And there's a little bit more space on this side of the garden, so I'm going to make it over here. And there are plenty of cool videos about how to make custom trees. One of my favorites by a YouTuber called Mythical Sausage, I will link in the description. But basically how I like to make smaller ones is make a couple roots, maybe dig 1 or 2 into the ground, and then throw some fences on it just to kind of connect it to the trunk, which I usually make like 4 or 5 blocks tall depending on how big I want it. And then I'll branch out 1 block in a couple different directions, sometimes upward, sometimes sideways, sometimes diagonal, usually diagonal, and then take some fences and just do a little bit of branching off. And this is kind of the basis of our leaves, which will be a little bit messier, but still cool. And then sometimes I'll put a couple branches on top as well. Sometimes I'll decide not to, but I'm actually going to this time. And I'm going to stick 1 here. And then when placing leaves, the biggest tip I'd like to give is don't fill the entire thing with leaves. I am very sparse with my placement of leaves. You can be less or more sparse and place less or more leaves depending on your preference. I usually don't place very many. I try to leave as much airspace as possible, because in real life, you can kind of look through the leaves of trees and still see a little bit of sky. So I want to portray that in Minecraft. Another tip that I'd like to give for creating these custom trees is to kind of have some parts that don't totally connect to the rest. They should have the corners touching of the block, but other than that, you can kind of just let them float. Obviously, it wouldn't technically work in real life, but I think this is Minecraft, so it is possible for the leaves to be almost floating. And I think this looks like almost a real tree, or as close to a real tree as you can really get in Minecraft. And that's basically what we want. And the next thing I want to do is just to put some bushes everywhere, and you can make them however big you want. I like to make them pretty small and just kind of scatter a lot of them around. And you can even make them as small as 1 block. Sometimes I'll make just a bush that's 1 block, almost as a smaller bush, and then you can have more size variation, which is good. And also, you can make some height variation, so some of them are only 1 block tall, while others are a few blocks tall. And then I like to scatter a few buttons around because they look like little pebbles, and I think little pebbles are something that isn't too uncommon in this type of garden. And then before we spam bone meal, the final tip I'd like to give is to pick either one type of flower or a type of 2 block tall flower. And I especially suggest picking a type of 2 block tall flower, because when you bone meal something, it doesn't naturally grow the 2 block tall flowers, and it'll look a little bit less like nature and a little bit more like an actual garden if you pick a type of 2 block flower and put a lot of it around. So you can pick peonies, or I think the other one is lilacs, or you can pick roses, which is my personal preference, but I sometimes mix it up. I usually go with roses, though. I personally think it looks the most gardeny, just because roses are a pretty common flower in gardens. And then once you have your flowers that you're going to put in very intentionally, just kind of spam bone meal everywhere. And this is kind of how you get it to look more natural. And you can also bone meal some of the grass that's put on the ground, and it'll grow into tall grass or tall ferns, depending on what the bone meal decides to put. And then there you have it. A nice, cute, pretty garden. And hopefully this is what you're looking for. This can be replicated on a larger scale, of course. You can make it hundreds of blocks wide. Then you might have to put a couple trees in there, but otherwise it's basically the same. So this works for a lot of different things. Hopefully it works for whatever you're doing as well. But that is it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Also, let me know in the comments what you'd like me to do in the next video. If you enjoyed this, please consider liking and subscribing. But other than that, have a great day, and goodbye.